Veterans, arthritis doesn't just ruin your mornings, it ruins everything around it. Your other joints, your sleep, your nerves, your mood, your life. And today, I'm showing you the top 5 secondary conditions caused by arthritis that the VA will rate separately. Look, if your joints hurt, pop, grind, click, or sound like a bag of Legos, give me a thumbs up, hit the like button, and let's get into it, because the number 3 condition could be a major rating booster to you. And the number 1 condition, I'm calling the big one, because it could be a gigantic boost to your overall disability evaluation. Now, as we go through all this, one thing I'd like for you to remember, keep in mind, is this. Arthritis equals or leads to more claims, secondary claims specifically. Now, make sure to stick around to the end for an all-new claim advice. I'm Mr. X. I'm the guy behind the guy, giving you all the information you want to know and need to know about the VA claims process. This is the VA Top 5. Number 5, muscle strain and overuse injuries. Look, when arthritis hits one joint, you start using your whole body like a veteran trying to avoid PT, okay? Everything else becomes overcompensation. So, if your knee hurts and you start favoring other things, now your hip hurts, your ankle hurts, your low back hurts. It all gets dragged into the pain party. Okay, so if you're service connected for arthritis of a joint, okay, pay close attention to all the other muscle strains and or joint strains around and corresponding to that joint. So your arthritis that's in your knee or your low back, it can lead to muscle strains, tendinitis, overuse injuries. This long-term can affect your gait change, the way that you walk, can create chronic soreness, joint imbalance, instability. Okay? If arthritis in one area forces you to move differently, then the VA allows secondary ratings for this. Okay? Keep in mind that primary arthritis in one joint, so if you're service connected for arthritis in your knee, that leads to altered movement, that leads to a new disability, which can be service connected on a secondary basis. The number 4 condition, nerve pain and radiculopathy. Look, arthritis is not polite. It doesn't just stay in one joint. It swells, it compresses nerves, and it tightens around surrounding tissue. Okay? So when you get things like burning pain, numbness, tingling, shooting pain down the arms or the legs, weakness, the pins and needles feeling or sensations, okay, that's radiculopathy and nerve pain. Now, radiculopathy from arthritis is extremely common, especially in the spine area. So if you're service connected for a cervical spine condition, neck condition, shoulder condition, this could, and as the arthritis swells, this could lead to radiculopathy in the upper extremity. All right? If it happens in the low back, then it can lead to lumbar radiculopathy. It could lead to other peripheral nerve conditions. Now, all these are secondary conditions. One thing to keep in mind as you're going through this, though, okay, and this is a real pro tip here. So, if you're service connected for a cervical spine condition or a shoulder condition, and you have a corresponding upper extremity nerve issue, then you can have one evaluation. So whether that's one nerve evaluation for your ulnar nerve, radius nerve, okay, only one of them can be service connected. Now for the lower extremity, you can have 2 evaluations. Generally, when there's a service-connected low back condition and radiculopathy, the 2 nerves that are generally affected are the sciatic nerve and the femoral nerve, but there's other nerves in your lower leg that could also be affected. Now, those evaluations, those oftentimes are greater than the primary condition. So, if you have any of those symptoms, the burning pain, numbness, tingling, weakness, any of that stuff, then I would file a secondary claim for neuropathy or radiculopathy due to those conditions, because this is a real game changer. These secondary conditions are huge. All right, the number 3 condition, limited mobility and functional loss. Okay, now this is a major rating boost. Okay, now On the surface, and I apologize, this is going to seem like it's not a secondary condition, and it's really not. But what I'm trying to emphasize here is this. With that arthritis, the functional loss in that joint that's already service connected, you could be due for an increase. Okay, especially if you have difficulty standing, difficulty sitting, bending, inability to walk long distances, reduced grip strength. There's mobility limitations, flare-ups that freeze the joint. All of these things lead to the functional loss caused by arthritis. And that functional loss means that you have big gains in your future. That reduced range of motion, okay, that leads to the higher evaluations for your current service-connected disability. Okay. Now, the VA generally rates higher percentages for the joints based on the loss of range of motion. Okay. So, one thing to keep in mind here, arthritis leads to mobility issues, functional issues, which then also leads to additional rating opportunities or claims. Okay, so don't mean to be a little sly here with this third one, but the point is arthritis, when it gets worse over time, it leads to increased evaluations, and sometimes the biggest one is not necessarily the secondary ones, but the one you're already service connected for. So when you're applying for that secondary claim, I would more than likely encourage you, as you apply for those conditions related to your primary condition, also throw in your primary condition one there as well. That way it can be properly evaluated. The number 2 condition, sleep disturbances or insomnia. Look, if arthritis pain has ever woken you up at 3 a.m., like you were being recalled to formation, you're not alone. Chronic pain, it wrecks sleep because it hurts when you roll over. It hurts when you move. Your joints stiffen in the night. Now, inflammatory pain spikes, discomfort breaks down that deep sleep, and the flare-ups that you have, they interrupt that rest. Okay? Now, sleep disturbance and insomnia are generally rated separately. Insomnia, if you have an already other mental health condition, it'd probably just be wrapped into that. If you were seen in service for sleep conditions, sleep adjacent conditions, or insomnia in service, then you could have a separate insomnia diagnosis. The thing to keep in mind with this is if that pain that you have in your service-connected joints, okay, if that leads to sleep disruption and fatigue, then all of this, above all of this, could be another condition you could be service-connected for. You can even throw sleep apnea in here. Now, I know sleep apnea is, it goes the rounds. Sometimes they say it's connected or not. But if you're increasingly, losing sleep, that's creating fatigue and creating this disruption, okay, it could lead to sleep apnea. It's less likely than the VA, the examiners generally don't like to give a positive nexus for this one, but I have seen it. So keep that in mind when you're going through your current conditions that you're service connected for and your other current non-service connected disabilities, because this may be an avenue to get them service connected. And here's the big one. Number 1 condition, depression and anxiety. And I'd expand this to include just about any other mental health condition outside of PTSD. Look, chronic pain from arthritis doesn't just attack your joints, it attacks your mental health. So when you can't move like you used to, when pain limits your hobbies, when getting out of bed feels like a mission, that all takes a toll. Now, all of the above, when you have it, it can then cause depression, anxiety, irritability, frustration, social withdrawal, loss of motivation, reduced quality of life, and many, many more symptoms. And these symptoms, if they lead to a diagnosis of a mental health condition, a depressive disorder, an anxiety disorder, these are all rateable and up to 100%. Thing to keep in mind is if your arthritis in your joint leads to pain and that reduced quality of life due to, the frustration, irritability, anxiety, and all the above, and that all leads to that mental health diagnosis, then that is absolutely claimable, rateable, and is granted often, up to 100%. I see it often, and it can make a huge impact on your overall combined evaluation. All right, claim advice. All right, this is the segment that I take a question that is asked and turn it into a more long form thing instead of just typing it all out. So on my previous video, I had someone type it in. Thank you for that. And they asked this: do you need a separate nexus from a separate MD or doctor to file for a secondary chronic pain, gait, gastro, or mental condition related to already rated conditions, or can you just provide a separate personal statement referencing an existing nexus? Any help or advice is appreciated. All right, so on the surface here, okay, the answer, as always, kind of depends. Now, if you're filing a new claim, okay, a new claim for, whether that's chronic pain, gait, gastro, or a mental health condition, and if it's, it's already diagnosed, and it's in your record, it's diagnosed, so the only thing that's missing is the nexus, then no, you do not need to get a separate nexus statement. Just filing a claim for, gastrointestinal issues or IBS or GERD or something like that as secondary to your service-connected condition. That's all you need to do. Because when the VA develops your claim, they'll go in and look at, hey, you're already service-connected for this condition. You claimed another condition, IBS, as secondary to your service-connected condition. They're going to look in your records and to see if you have a diagnosis of that secondary condition. Once they see that you have treatment or a diagnosis of IBS or something close to or related to that, then in their development, they'll probably request an exam and then request a secondary MO. Now, you can always submit another secondary opinion if you want to, but you do not have to, because if you have the diagnosis of both conditions, then the VA will request one, which, saves you the money and time and effort to go out and get a secondary one. Now, on the other side of that, if you have if you're filing a supplemental claim and it was already previously denied as secondary to this condition, this is the second part of the question that they asked. It says, do you need to provide a personal statement referencing an existing nexus? Now, if it's a supplemental claim and it was denied as secondary to that other condition and there's already a nexus in the file, then you're going to need to provide new and additional evidence to overcome why it was previously denied. So you'll need to provide something that goes against the negative nexus as why they denied your claim in the first place. So if you claimed, let's say, IBS secondary to, your knees and the NSAID medication that you take for that, and the VA already went out, requested an opinion, it came back negative, then look at why they came back negative, and then the evidence that you submit will have to overcome the already negative opinion in the file, or else service connection would have been granted, right? Now, I know that's a long, convoluted answer, but think about it this way. If it's a new claim, no, you don't need to submit the secondary separate nexus from a different doctor. If it's a supplemental claim, you might need to, or might need to cast doubt as to why it was denied in the first place. All right. I should hopefully answer your question. I'm sorry if I rambled a little bit too much, but I try to think about all avenues and possibilities when going through it. I try to keep it less scripted and just freelance it. I think it leads to better overall content. All right. Now, if you have a question that you'd like addressed in a long form like this for claim advice, drop me a comment in this video or any video and just put claim advice on it and whatever question you'd like me to address. All right, wrapping it up here. So those are the top 5 secondary conditions caused by arthritis. And if you're dealing with any of these, they're not just symptoms. They're separate disabilities that the VA has to evaluate. Look, you've earned these benefits. Now let's make sure you're rated for everything you're dealing with. Okay? Do me a favor, though. If you watch this video and it helps you in any way, then let's do all the YouTube things. Please, give me the thumbs up. I think I've earned it. Please consider subscribing, doing all the other YouTube stuff. Drop me a comment if you think I missed out on one, or if you'd have one that you'd like to share that's different and additional, then please share. We're all here to help each other, help one another. Again, if you have something you'd like me to address and claim advice, drop me a comment or a question on that one. Also, please subscribe for more no-fluff VA claim tips broken down with a little humor and some honesty. I'm Mr. X. Thanks for being with me. This is the VA Top 5.